So let's bring in Karoline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, to dig more into this and other issues. Carolyn, it's great to see you. It's good to have our own private briefing today.
It's great to see you, too. Thanks for having me, guys.
So the Democrats are really screaming from the rooftops about DOGE, all centered around Elon Musk and USAID. Here's just a little bit of what they've been doing in the past few days.
First and foremost, Elon Musk.
This is a dictatorship in the making. We're not going to have apartheid in America anymore.
So here's the interesting thing. A Reuters Ipsos poll that was done right after the USAID news broke found that 56% of people would like to see all foreign assistance programs suspended, which is leading a lot of people to say that the Democrats have picked a very weird hill to die on.
That's because there's no other hill to die on, because President Trump continues to deliver on the promises that he made to the American people on the campaign trail, and going through the federal government line by line and making this government more efficient is one of those priorities and one of those promises that President Trump made. And as you just cited, John, 56% of Americans support freezing foreign aid. And I read a fascinating article in the Washington Post today. They interviewed voters in Pennsylvania, and all of them said that they support President Trump and Elon Musk's efforts to make this government more efficient. What President Trump and Elon Musk and this entire administration is trying to do is make our bloated bureaucracy here in Washington run like a profitable business. And every agency has been tasked with going line by line and ensuring that the American taxpayers' money is aligned with the American people's interests. It's a common sense solution to fixing a decades-old problem of bloated bureaucracy, waste, fraud, and abuse. And the vast majority of Americans support it. So the Democrats can hoot and holler all they want. This White House will stay committed to delivering on President Trump's priorities and being good stewards of the hardworking American people's tax dollars.
All right, Caroline, again, great to have you on the program. Sandra here. So as far as President Trump's federal buyout offer, we know that expires at midnight tonight. The latest we've heard is that 40,000 staff have agreed to leave. Before I get to my question, is that still about the number right now, 40,000?
Yes. Last I checked with the Office of Personnel Management, it was more than 40,000 and counting. And I would add that we encourage federal workers who don't feel like showing up to the office to accept this buyout program. It's a very generous offer from President Trump and this administration.
I wonder if that's about the number where the president thought he would be right now, or perhaps that might be bigger. Reportedly, and we'll ask you to confirm if this is the case, President Trump is planning mass layoffs if there are not more who agree to those buyouts. Is that the case?
I haven't heard the president discuss that directly, so I can't confirm that. But like I said, we do know that more than 40,000 and counting federal workers have agreed to this buyout program, and they are looking forward, I guess, to having their 8-month paid vacation. The president made a commitment that he was going to encourage the federal workforce to return to the office. We know only 6% of federal workers are working in the office right now. That's unacceptable, and that's why the buyout program was offered.
I want to ask about the president's announcement at Gaza the other day, which seemed to take staff members by surprise. It's something that he had talked about, but they didn't know he was going to make an announcement. A few people I've talked to who worked there at the White House, when they heard that, they said, wait, what? I mean, it's an idea. Some people think that he's laying down the gauntlet to our allies to say, well, if you don't like this idea, have you got a better idea? But the question I have is, he went through the campaign saying that he wanted to get the United States out of its involvement in foreign entanglements. This would seem to be exactly the opposite of that.
I don't think so, John. The president has made it clear that he will not be sending boots on the ground at Gaza. He is not committed to that. He also has made it clear that American taxpayers will not be funding this effort. The president is trying to strike a deal to ensure that Gaza can actually be a habitable place for human beings who want to live in peace with real economic development. And President Trump is an outside-of-the-box thinker. That's, again, why the American people elected him, because he has a different perspective to the foreign foreign policy challenges that have been plaguing our world for many, many years. And so this is a great idea, and our partners in the region have begun to discuss it with this administration. We have the King of Bahrain coming to the White House next week, and the president has spoken to many of our partners and allies in the Middle East about this opportunity in Gaza.
Okay, in lines of all the spending cuts, there's a lot of concern, and Democrats are penning letters to the president trying to get clarity on where he stands with the Department of Education. Is he planning to completely dismantle this? What right now is his thinking on that?
Sure. Well, first, let me say the president is wholeheartedly committed to spending cuts and, of course, making the government more efficient. That's part of what DOGE is already hitting the ground running to do. When it comes to the Department of Education, the president and his policy team continue to look at options and how to reduce the size of the Department of Education, if not abolish it completely. You heard the president say, half jokingly but also serious, he wants Linda McMahon, who will lead that agency, to put herself out of a job because he wants to return the power over our education system back to the states. In fact, I actually have a statistic in front of me. 70% of 8th graders are at a below proficient level in math and reading. 70%. And that's despite spending hundreds of billions of dollars on education every single year. The current system located in Washington, D.C. is not working, and the president is committed to ensuring that states and parents have a greater say in our children's education system.
Yeah, I mean, the state of education in America, for the most part, is scandalous. There's no doubt about that. I wanted to ask you about the executive order that the president signed yesterday in what was a brilliant moment of stagecraft at the White House, surrounded by all those young female athletes, as the president codified in an executive order the fact that transgender athletes have to stay out of women's sports. But in order to really codify that, that's going to take an act of Congress. Is the president moving down that direction?
Well, we expect Congress to act on this, and if Congress puts a bill on this topic before President Trump's desk that makes sense and is good law, then the president is committed to signing legislation that supports the executive action he has already taken. And I will just say it was a glorious moment at the White House yesterday afternoon to see these female athletes who have worked so hard and have spoken up so courageously about the injustices that they have faced on the sports field. And as a former college softball player myself, it was incredibly special to see the president make the dreams of millions of female athletes across the country true. And we had a big win following President Trump's executive order. Within hours, the NCAA announced that they will be following with the president's federal policy. And by the way, we expect the Olympic Committee to do the same. 2028, the Olympics will be returning to the United States of America, and how wonderful it will be for women across the world to see the U.S. lead on this incredibly important and common sense issue.
Karoline, I want to finish by asking you about the number of deportations we've seen so far. Perhaps this is the most public action for the American people that they've seen under this new presidency. Is the president happy, content with the number of deportations we've seen so far? There's reports that those numbers have not reached the heights he was hoping.
No, the president is very pleased with the efforts by his team, Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, Secretary Kristi Noem, who has been traversing the country, talking with Border Patrol agents and ICE agents who are been tasked with this very important responsibility, the largest mass deportation operation in history. But as I've said before, we will not get complacent. And the president has made this very bold promise to the American people, and he expects everybody across DHS and here at the White House to continue to work hard every day to deport illegal criminals from American communities. And yesterday, I know that Mr. Homan was in Colorado. They deported more than 100 Tren de Aragua members. That's a huge win for the American people, for law-abiding citizens of this country who have been put last because of the previous administration's immigration policies and are being put first again because of the Trump administration's immigration policies.
Karoline, thank you for coming on and spending time with us today. And it almost feels like I'm back in the front row in the briefing room.
You should come join us, John, anytime.
Well, I appreciated our times that we spent together chatting in the lower press office some years ago.
Yes.
All right, Karoline, thank you so much. Come back soon.
Thanks, guys.